This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
He's Greg. I'm Nick. We'll talk Chicago Bears versus Patriots this Sunday in a couple of minutes. First, download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. Also, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Greg. Before we get to the offensive line, before we get to Caleb versus Drake, just a couple of quick questions for you regarding the trading deadline. Were you surprised at all that the Patriots were so quiet on deadline day?
No, I was not. The only thing I think we discussed in the last pod is that I felt reasonably good about KJ Osborne being on the way out. That did not happen. The Patriots probably didn't want to give him away, but could they end up cutting him? I don't know. But yeah, no, not really surprising. Were you surprised?
No, I didn't think it made much sense. I don't think you're getting a great return on some of the guys that you have. You look at culture versus capital, and you got to kind of pick that balance. And a guy like Godshaw, Jonathan Jones, those guys are very important for the room. Kendrick Bourne, especially with the wide receivers you have. So I wasn't surprised. And I know some people wanted them to buy, but in their specific situation, I don't think you're looking for anybody other than younger players that might have some term left, or guys that you think that you can sign to an extension. And those guys really weren't readily available at this deadline. So I'm not surprised. You answered the second question.
Nick, one thing on that.
Sure.
I know a bunch of people, I'm sure, wanted the Patriots to buy, and, there are people out there being like, you have to go get Drake May help right now. What people have to keep in mind is the Patriots are not where they are right now. And we know this is a pretty big rebuild that they're in the midst of. And they were not going to risk, certainly anything third round or above. But, even when you're talking like fourth round, the Patriots aren't going to give those picks away on the hope that you get a guy, you bring him in, and then he wants to re-sign with you and all that. Like they can't afford to risk that. This is going to be, we said this from the beginning when Elliott Wolf was brought in, that this rebuild was going to happen through the draft. And I know, certainly it's been a popular topic of discussion. I saw you tweeting about it today, about how people want to say this draft was an epic fail. Like I just don't agree with that. I just don't expect much out of rookie classes, any rookies. They got the quarterback in the first round, and basically this is the way that it goes, first round. If you draft somebody in the first round, you should get just about an immediate starter. Maybe towards the back end of the first round, it's more of, they should start at some point their rookie year. Second rounders are sort of, they contribute as rookies, but you're hoping that they become a starter in year two. And then, from there on out, it just goes down and down. I mean, third, fourth round picks, when we're talking about Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson, and, Javon Baker. I mean, you're talking about, these are future bets where you're hoping that by like year three, that they're still on your roster and contributing and possibly pushing for a starting role. So I don't know. It's like we talk about every draft cycle. Like, I just think the draft is so freaking overrated by people. It's just become an event, and their expectations just get, way too high. I mean, do I want Jaylen Polk to be playing better and playing more? Yeah, but that he isn't a huge indictment. Guys go through this all the time. I mean, Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs has a couple of touchdowns, but I think he has like 10 catches on the year or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it.
I have a lot of feelings. First of all, my tweet from earlier today, and if you want to follow me, it's at Nick C Radio, was about Jaylen Polk, as you mentioned. And I just heard Michael Holley, and he was with you last night. I was watching you guys from BST last night. And Michael threw out, I think, Donald Driver. He threw out Greg Jennings. And I think what people do is they just kind of throw out these names thinking of who those guys eventually became. But I wanted to look back at what they were at the beginning of their career. And we talk about the Packer way and Packers, they draft great wide receivers all the time. And here we are, first wide receiver pick by Elliott Wolf, and the dude's a bust. First of all, 9 weeks into somebody's career is not when you call him a bust. I'm sorry. I will keep saying that until I turn blue in the face and pass out. I just don't believe in that. You got to give guys time, as Greg just said. But when you look back, Greg, at those picks, at those wide receivers, Donald Driver in his rookie season had 3 catches for 31 yards his rookie season. Greg Jennings, 45 catches for 632. Jordy Nelson, 33 catches for 366. Randall Cobb, 25 catches for 375. Even Devontae Adams, who ended up becoming arguably the best receiver in the NFL for a couple of years, in his rookie season, he had 38 catches and 446. And remember, those guys had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers throwing the football to them. So everybody calm the hell down with the draft picks to expect all of those guys to make immediate impacts is just completely unreasonable, and expecting really more than your first round pick right off the bat to make a huge difference is unusual. And I know people will look at the Commanders, and look, teams nail drafts sometimes. It happens, right? And sometimes you do have 3 or 4 guys or 2 or 3 guys that immediately contribute. But we're talking about the vast majority. And you mentioned Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. I'm a huge fan of Marvin Harrison Jr. And everybody was going out of their ever-loving mind before the draft. Man, you got to draft Harrison. You got to draft Harrison. He's generational. I don't necessarily disagree that he could be truly special. He has 28 catches this year. 28. And he was the guy in this draft. It's not like he's on pace for 100 catches this year. He's not on pace for the 13, 14, 1,500 yard season that people were saying that he's going to have. Now, maybe he'll get there as he improves during the season. But guess what? Jaylen Polk could also improve during the season. And maybe by the end, we're talking about a guy who has 35 catches, 40 catches, and gets out of this. So, you could look at Malik Neighbors, who has, I think, 25 catches, or Roma Dunze is somewhere in the 20s. It's this like unrealistic expectation. And it drives me nuts. And the people that, in the other game, before I kick it back to you, Greg, because I know you got something else to say. The other thing about the draft that drives me nuts is the revisionist history now of people that are like, oh yeah, Elliott Wolf drafted Drake May. Congratulations. That's easy. He's the guy you were going to draft. Okay. If you thought that he should draft Drake May, and I thought he should draft Drake May, and that was the right call, fine. But I know, and Greg, you heard from a lot of these people before the draft, why don't they trade down and draft Joe Alt? Why don't they trade down and draft J.J. McCarthy? Why don't they draft Marvin Harrison Jr.? So let's not act like everybody was on the Drake May bandwagon because he looks good early in his career back in April, because that was certainly not the case.
Right. And, both of us were on the same wavelength with that. I mean, yes, I thought that from what I saw on film, I thought Drake May needed development, but I didn't care. If you thought he had the potential to be a guy, which we've seen now, then you take him third. I don't care if he doesn't play a game until 2025. That's what I said at the time, and I stand by that. But, back on the receivers, I do think people have these outsized expectations. I mean, Malik Neighbors is really, and Brian Thomas is coming on now in Jacksonville, but I would say Malik Neighbors, he has 55 receptions this year. So but he was the 6th overall pick.
Yeah, and I just want to say I mixed him up with Roma Dunze. It's Roma Dunze,
and I was about
somewhere in the 20s.
I was just about to get to, even if Jaylen Polk has 10 receptions, all right, even if Jaylen Polk had 20 receptions, let's say, people would still be unsatisfied with that because of their unrealistic expectations. I mean, like you said, Marvin Harrison Jr., the 4th overall pick, only has 28 catches this year. And he has, Kyler Murray. They have a decent offensive line. Like, he's in a pretty good situation, and he only has 28 receptions. Rome Odunze, who's with Caleb Williams, he's surrounded by other guys like DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, and we'll talk about those guys. He only has 25 catches, and I think Xavier Worthy, who I think a lot of people were saying the Patriots missed out on, they should have traded back in the first round. I mean, with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and a bunch of injuries at the Chiefs wide receiver position where they're, bringing in DeAndre Hopkins and they're trying to find people, Worthy's been basically healthy the whole time. He has 19 catches. Yeah, he has 3 touchdowns, but he has 19 catches. And, look at the situation that Polk's in. So I just think people have these things in their mind, but they just, every year they forget. Like, it's not reality. I mean, we have top 10 picks who aren't doing all that much more than Jaylen Polk, and people are bummed that the 37th pick, is off to a slow start. It just, let alone what else is going on with this team where they can't block and they have no scheme. They got to dump. The Chiefs Patriots, they can't draft wide receivers anymore. Jaylen Polk will be fine. People just have to have patience.
and let's just beat the dead horse. Xavier Legette has 26 catches on the season for 244 yards. Keon Coleman has 22 catches for the season for 417 yards. I think people got triggered because of Ladd McConkey having a good game a couple weeks ago, and Ladd McConkey's been good. 35 catches, though. It's not like he's got 50 catches. Neighbors is the one dude that's walked into the NFL and said, yeah, I'm going to own this place. So take a deep breath. All right. Moving on from that, I'm telling people to take a deep breath. I need to take a deep breath because I'm on Twitter today, and Greg, I got to tell you, I thought my head was going to explode in my living room when I saw Alex Van Pelt telling us pretty much not to be surprised if Mike Onwenu is playing left guard some point soon. And apparently Onwenu practiced yesterday at left guard. What are we doing and why are we doing it, Greg?
I don't know. I'm at like wit's end with this. I mean, just like it's just one puzzling decision. I mean, by the way, just to put in perspective the geniuses that we're talking about that are making these decisions, let's just revisit the Jeffrey Simmons decision. Just briefly, I went off on it the other day. To me, it was egregious and one of the dumbest things I've ever seen covering the NFL. Just to put in perspective how bad that decision was, to let go of the continuity that you had built with Onwenu at right guard, DeMontre Jacobs at right tackle. You could have had the third straight starting lineup, the same thing, getting some continuity. These guys used to playing each other. No, we talked about it before. These geniuses decided to move Onwenu back out to right tackle where he hasn't been any good. Let's move the rookie Layden Robinson and at right guard against Jeffrey Simmons, and then also not have a plan against Jeffrey Simmons. Just to put into perspective how bad the Patriots plan was with that, I went back and looked at it. Jeffrey Simmons, according to PFF, Jeffrey Simmons had 8 total pressures in that game, 1 sack and 7 hurries. His previous high this season was 4 against the Colts. So everybody else is making it a priority to limit Jeffrey Simmons because of how good he is. The Patriots, of course, they don't do anything, double anything he's done this season. And that was the most pressure Jeffrey Simmons has had in a game since week 9 of 2021. So, I mean, we're talking an all-time just dumbass bad plan from this offensive collective, their brain trust. So now this same group that brought you that decided, let's now move Mike Onwenu over to the left side of the line where he hasn't played, I think, since 2021. And they're going to try this. I mean, look, on the surface, I can understand the thinking probably, Nick, is we like Layden Robinson. We want him to play. We want to see more. We want to see what he can do for the rest of the season, building into next year. I I'm sorry. Now's not the time for that. It's not. That's for like the last month of the season when everything is thrown away. Like this coaching staff, like they're on the rocks, man. They're like, it's not going well. And they need to do everything they need to do to win games, to look like a competent outfit. And now if this thing blows up in its face, like the Simmons did, I'm sorry. These guys are putting themselves in the crosshairs all by themselves and just shooting themselves in the foot. It's just ridiculous. And I'm tired of talking about this kind of stuff.
It reminds you of, week 4 against the Niners when they didn't help on Nick Bosa, and Nick Bosa had 9 quarterback pressures in that game, just 9 pressures alone. It makes no sense. All right, before we get to the Caleb Drake showdown, Greg, tell the fine people about your PrizePicks this weekend.
PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Now you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Trying to get back on the horse. Been struggling a little bit. Thanks to the jackasses that run the Patriots offense, and I can't figure out what the hell they're doing from week to week. But we are going Drake Maye over 20.5 rushing yards. I will admit I don't feel great about that because watching Kyler Murray only had 6 yards rushing against the Bears last week. I do think that the Bears do a good job closing in the pocket, but I think Drake's just of the mindset that like he's just going to run like the bejesus because that's basically all they can do on offense. I'm going Ramondre Stevenson over a half rush plus receiving touchdown. I think if the Patriots are going to do anything in this game, it's going to be on the ground. The Bears defense is 30th against the run in DVOA. Hunter Henry over 42.5 receiving yards. I do like the Bears safeties. I do not like their linebackers. Old friend Tremaine Edmonds, who we all know when he was with the Bills, very slow. I just think that Drake knows that Hunter Henry's like the one guy he can count on in the passing game, so I'm banking on that. I'm going Joey Sly. I'm going with both kickers in this game, Joey Sly and Santos, over 1.5 field goals made. I think it's going to be low scoring. And DeAndre Swift, the Bears running back, I'm going over a half rushing and receiving TDs. He has a crappy offensive line, but I do think that he's a weapon in both the run game and the pass game. He usually carves up. He usually has good games, and the Bears have good games against the defense like the Patriots. So I'm looking to him to hit pay dirt. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
All right, this game, of course, a lot of people looking at it as the Caleb Williams versus Drake Maye showdown, 1 versus 3. Looking at these quarterbacks, Greg, of course, you've seen a lot of Drake Maye. You've done some work on Caleb Williams this week. Right now, who would you rather have in a football game?
All things being equal, same team, same coaching, stuff like that. Well, that's interesting. So I'm gonna answer this 2 different ways. I'm gonna answer that question with Caleb Williams, and the reason is that in my draft evaluation, I had Caleb, Jaylen, Drake, and I thought all 3 were worthy of where they went. I had them 1, 2, 3 in this draft. If we're taking circumstances out of it, I still think that Caleb Williams is the overall most talented quarterback out of this group. Now, I would pose this question, who would I rather have as my franchise quarterback? I would say Drake Maye. Does that make sense that those 2 answers are different? Okay. I don't follow the Bears all that closely. There's just something, and I watch the Hard Knocks, and I've heard Caleb talk sometimes, and there's just something about him that I don't like. Like, I find disingenuous, that he's a little fake, that, and you could see, I was watching the Cardinals tape, and, we'll talk about it more, but I got to tell you, that was some of the worst offensive film that I've ever seen. And I do think that they're in similar situations in that both offensive lines stink. The coaching stinks. Caleb Williams has weapons to work with. He does. But I see Drake lifting his situation. I don't see Caleb helping his situation. And in a lot of ways, you see him contributing to a poor situation because I don't think that there's very much enthusiasm for the offense. I don't think Caleb likes the system. And I think that filters down to DJ Moore's walking off the field during the middle of plays. Keenan Allen's giving questionable effort. Like, it's a bad situation in Chicago that could get really bad on Sunday. And I don't think that would ever happen with Drake. Drake does not have a good situation, but he's always the same. And I just think that at the end of the day, I'd rather have him running my program than Caleb Williams.
There's absolutely this vibe from Drake that, he takes accountability for everything. He takes the responsibility and puts it on himself. And I don't know if you get that from Caleb at all times. Caleb's ceiling is pretty crazy because of his just natural ability, as you said, his talent. But yeah, I mean, you look at this Bears offense, and we might as well just get into it now. This Bears offense versus the Patriots defense on Sunday. The Bears don't do a whole lot that's like, wow, look at this. They're not very exotic offensively. Waldron, of course, had history here for a little bit, went out and coached with Sean McVay. He's somebody that, I think a lot of people thought, hey, he's going to take some of those things that you see from McVay, that the pre-snap motion, the snap at motion, the motion at snap, all those things, and cook up some fun stuff. And you don't really see that from this Bears offense. And Greg, you talked about Williams, and right now he's been super streaky. He got off to a bad start. Then he had 3 games where he was super hot and statistically and analytically one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The last 2 weeks haven't been great, but overall, 25th in passer rating, 27th in QBR. They don't have a lot of explosive plays. Evan Lazar, our friend, said, he wrote that they're 27th in explosive play rate. So, you've got a Dunze, you've got Keenan Allen, you've got Swift and Williams, you've got Cole Kmet, who, by the way, my freaking goodness, Cole Kmet is on the back of a milk carton. That dude wasn't even seen against Arizona. He's just out there standing. He's literally standing around trying to figure out what the hell he's supposed to do. And as a fan of Notre Dame, I'm a little perplexed by that because Cole Kmet's a good football player. But yes, they have all of these weapons, Greg, and they've got a quarterback who has that ceiling. So you just kind of mentioned it. You hinted at it. With those numbers from the quarterback, with the struggles from this offense, what is wrong with this operation in Chicago?
A couple of different things. What I see. I think that the scheme is a mess. I think you're right. Shane Waldron is a guy who, came up under McVay, but I think he's an example of one of these guys that, for whatever reason, because other guys have had success that have been with McVay, but for whatever reason, he never understood the secret sauce. And this also goes to what's going on with the Patriots defense, with DeMarcus Covington and Gerard Mayo. You can have the manual in front of you in terms of this is what we've done, this is how you do it. But to understand the how and the why and the timing and the matchups and things like that, it doesn't do any good. It's not going to come together right. And the scheme's bad. I would say their offensive line it's terrible. It's very unathletic. They had a play. They had a play on the goal line where the Bears were coming out. The game was basically largely over. They were on the 1 foot line, their own 1 foot line. And they went to run a ball to the right and they completely no one blocked the left end and came in and he almost got a safety. Like there are some things that you see that you're just like, oh my God, this is horrendous. I actually think that their scheme and execution might be worse than the Patriots. It might be. And then you factor into that Caleb plays hero ball all the time. He doesn't take easy money. I think the story in this game, if the Patriots are to win this game, I think that Drake is going to, and this goes to attest to Drake's mentality, how he learns, how he's humble, how he says, on the game-winning touchdown, he rightfully pointed out I had Hunter Henry earlier. I didn't need to make it that hard on myself, and other things. He'll look at the film and he'll be like, I need to take the easy money more. And Caleb Williams rarely takes the easy money. And if Drake can take the easy money more than Caleb Williams does in this game, I think the Patriots stand a good chance of winning this game. But you see, Drake tries to play hero ball. He's late with things. They do put a lot on his plate at the line of scrimmage, as far as you'll see him up there changing things, moving people around. I mean, it's astounding for a rookie to be able to do that at this point in time. But I would say, watching the Bears, we heard from a lot of people, Nick, in the ramp up to this, and Drake Maye, like, all right, you got the quarterback. Now go get him a bunch of weapons. Well, the Bears have a bunch of weapons. They went and got Keenan Allen. They drafted Rome Odunze. They have DJ Moore. They have Cole Kmet. They have DeAndre Swift. And what the hell is that getting them? Not much. I mean, they might be able to win a shootout against, some teams and put up some stats in one game where the Patriots won't really do that. But it just shows you, like, if you don't have the scheme and you don't have the offensive line, it doesn't matter what you surround the quarterback with, because you're really not going to get anywhere at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Greg said that Drake plays hero ball. He meant Caleb plays hero ball.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
I just want to correct it so people aren't, losing their minds. But he does hold on to the football. He takes sacks. I watched that Arizona game over again. I watched some of it live, and then I watched it over again this week off the NFL.com plus deal that I got. And he holds on to the football. He takes sacks, I think, too often. And that's a problem. He tries to do too much too often. That's a problem, as you said. To go back to that fourth offensive possession, I pulled up my notes from the game, and it was a perfect Arizona punt. So Chicago's at its own 1 yard line. 1st and 10, under center, run stuff. Then 2nd and 10, Caleb Williams in the gun. DeAndre Swift gets called for a chop block in the end zone, safety.
Yep.
That's pretty much the Bears offense in a nutshell right now.
By the way, another thing, just two more things on. I saw two things in that film that I've never seen in my life covering the NFL, Nick. Number one was the DJ Moore play.
I saw your tweet.
I posted it on Twitter.
Greg posts the video on Twitter. It's hilarious. He circles DJ Moore and he draws a line to the sidelines. That's as if DJ Moore's running a play.
Yeah. So Caleb, the ball's in the middle of the field. Caleb rolls to his left. DJ Moore's coming back. Now, he did say that he rolled his ankle a little bit. Okay, fine. It wasn't like his ankle was, his foot was dangling off his leg and he needed immediate attention. He was out there like 2 plays later, but so Caleb goes all the way to the left. DJ Moore doesn't get the ball. His ankle hurts. Caleb rolls all the way back to the other side of the field. At this point in time, DJ Moore walks off the field and goes and sits on the bench while Caleb's still running around. So he's down a receiver. Now he only has 4 receiver. I've never seen that. The other thing I've never seen before, and this just shows you where the scheme is and the understanding of what everybody's doing. So Budda Baker, everybody knows on the Cardinals, he's their best player. He's the guy that you have to game plan for. But just like the Patriots didn't do with Jeffrey Simmons, the Bears obviously didn't with Budda Baker. Budda Baker walks down into the box, and the back is there. I think it was Swift. And Caleb Williams gets the snap, holds the ball in his right hand, and points at Budda Baker, as he's dropping back, to basically tell DeAndre Swift, block that guy. DeAndre Swift goes, F you, I'm going out for a pass. And Buda Baker comes in and gets Caleb Williams. I mean, it is dysfunctional. That doesn't even get into, DJ Moore's dogging routes down the field. Like, these guys are a freaking hot mess, and it could boil over. If they lose this game to the Patriots on Sunday, a lot of people are going to get fired.
Listen, Shane Waldron was a popular name. I was interested in Waldron because of his background. I said, maybe he'd be a good hire for the Patriots to be the OC here. He hasn't done a good job. Luke Getsy was somebody who I was not a fan of because I saw Getsy coordinate the Chicago offense. Imagine, I got a friend who's in Virginia, my buddy Tim, big Bears fan. He's originally from the Chicago area. And I can't imagine him watching, like he had to sit through the Luke Getsy couple of years. He had to sit through it. Wasn't Adam Gase out there for like a year? He has to sit through Getsy, and now he's watching this with Waldron. He probably wants to punch somebody in the neck.
And Matt Nagy before that, like
Nagy. Oh my God. And Clint Kubiak, by the way, got off to a great start in New Orleans, and he hasn't been good the last 7-8 weeks. So play calling ain't easy. Kyle Duggar, Christian Ellis, both DMPs today, Greg. At this point, I wouldn't expect either guy to play. How much of a difference? Of course, Duggar's been out the last couple weeks, but how much of a difference does it make with Ellis? Now you're looking at McMillan and maybe Taki.
Yeah, we saw Taki, a limited amount in the last game. He did have a nice hard pass tackle over the middle. What's puzzling to me is we heard from DeMarcus Covington today, and he was asked about Taki, and he talked about something along the lines of, getting him up to speed with the playbook. I'm trying to look for the exact quote. DeMarcus Covington, this is from Mark Daniels on Sion Taki. He's doing a good job of learning the playbook. We need to get him rolling.
What? Week 10.
It's week 10. He's been here since the offseason. How freaking complicated is the playbook? Like, what did he do? Go on vacation when he was hurt? Like, how doesn't he know what the playbook? Like, oh God, this season. Like, I thought last
Greg,
season was bad.
You expect somebody to have 8 months of time to figure out the playbook? You're being unreasonable. I think you're being unreasonable. 8 months. Give him a year and a half. Maybe he'll figure it out after 18 months. All right, before we get to the Patriots offense versus Bears defense, let's talk about game time, Greg.
It's NBA time. We saw the Celtics last night, Jason Tatum's revenge game. Yeah, it didn't go that well, but, it was a good game. It was fun to watch. It was playoffs. I'm sure, little Nikki Cattles was all excited to watch that.
Great game. And I would like to mention, that was without the Celtics' second and third best players. So let's remember that.
No, true. Totally valid. And I got to say, that was probably the most of an NBA game that I've watched probably since the playoffs last year. Like, I watched most of the first half, then I had it on a separate TV, but I was, it was a good game. And I would have loved to have been there. I will say, if you want to be there, got some good opportunities through Gametime coming up. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. I was checking out the app, see what was going on for the Celtics games coming up. There's one, I think Friday night they play somebody, don't they? But I will say that game was a little bit expensive, but November 2nd, the Hawks, they're hosting them in the NBA Cup. I looked on Gametime. Right now, you can get in for $85. That's not going to happen very often with Celtics games. So if you want to get there, check it out. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
And yes, they host the Nets on Friday night, tomorrow night, 7:30. So that might be a game that's somewhat affordable because the Nets absolutely suck. All right, Patriots offense versus Bears defense. Greg, I almost hesitate to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
If you were Alex Van Pelt, What would you do? How are you attacking this Bears defense?
Well, if I was Alex Van Pelt, which we all know that is not true, this would be a game where, I revealed the Drake May plan where we use his legs. I would this would be a game where I would RPO quarterback design run the shit out of the Bears. This is a defense. I like a lot of what they do. I've always thought Eberflus is a good defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Interesting fun fact. McDaniels picked him to be his defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. And of course, McDaniels decided not to take it. He had already hired him. And so the Colts followed through and hired him. He was really good in Indy, and that led to the Bears job. He's really good. The Bears defense is 11th in DVOA overall. Their pass defense is 4th in DVOA. Their rush defense is 30th in DVOA. And we know the Patriots just can't line up, even with their secret weapon, Michael Winning at left guard. They just can't line up and block people in the run game. So that's why I would incorporate some of Drake May into that to, give them something to think about, make them defend an extra gap like that. All of a sudden might open up some space for Ramondre, because I do think he has the potential to have a good game. A couple other relevant stats that I was looking at. The Bears pressure rate is 30th in the league, 31.2% in some perspective. The Patriots are 23rd, and they don't have a great pass rush. So the Bears, and plus they lost Andrew Billings, sort of their big run stuffing defensive tackle for the year.
Yeah.
The Patriots should be able to run the ball in this game. They only blitz 22% of the time. They only play man defense 19% of the time, but that goes up to 34% on third down. This is a game where the Patriots have to find a way to run the ball, and that might open some things up in the passing game. I will say that they're pretty active up front. We'll see if Sweat played. He did not play last week, but I like, Montez Sweat, of course, is good. They got a guy 52, Darrell Taylor, 55, Jacob Martin, 99, Gervin Dexter in the middle is really good and impactful. DeMarcus Walker from Tennessee. So they have some guys that are active up front. They do a pretty good job of collapsing the pocket. Like I said, they limited Kyler, his running opportunities. They did a pretty good job with that. I will say Kyler's grown up a little bit where he's not looking to run as much as he did, whereas I do think Drake May still – there were opportunities – what I'm trying to say is there were opportunities for Kyler to run that Drake would take that Kyler didn't, because I do think he's matured a little bit. But they're going to have to run the ball. If they get behind by 2 scores and they got to throw against this defense, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, I mean, first and second down, we could say this every week, but especially this week against this defense, first and second down efficiency is absolutely huge. It's huge. So, can they run the football? That's the biggest question. Can they run the ball? Because Chicago is the 8th best defense on third down. The Patriots are 25th offensively on third down. And that's because they're constantly looking at 2nd and 9 and 2nd and 8 because Alex Van Pelt, the wizard, is running the football for his 1-yard plays. So they need to be better on first and second down. Billings is a big loss. He's actually 6th in the NFL in defensive tackle pass rush win rate. So he's literally been one of the best interior defensive linemen pass rushers in football. Darrell Taylor is 13th in pass rush win rate. You mentioned this guy, Greg, Gervin Dexter. He's 11th in defensive tackle pass rush win rate. So you got Billings and Dexter. Usually that's a nightmare. The Drake May design run thing, I just want to underline this for a second. We're not going to design runs for Drake May because we're worried about Drake May taking hits. But we're going to put Michael Wenu at right tackle and Layden Robinson at right guard against Jeffrey Simmons, which results in Drake May running 1,000 times off schedule, like a chicken with his head cut off, as if the hits he takes in those kinds of runs are different than the designed runs and the hits that he would take. It's my mind breaks. One other thing about Chicago's defense, terrific in the red zone. They are the third best defense in football in the red area. So you condense. It makes sense, right? You condense that field. We talk about their pass defense. Gets even tougher to pass against that defense in that condensed zone in that red area. And Chicago has been really tough in the red zone this year. So even if you move the football a little bit, I don't know how many drives you're finishing on Sunday. It's a tough defense. They play a ton of zone. They play almost 80% zone. Yeah. So, the runs from Maye versus man coverage that we've seen, probably not going to have as many opportunities this weekend because they play so much zone. It'll be a very interesting thing to watch play out on Sunday. All right, before we get to our pick, check out BSJ, $50 for the year. Bedard Giardi tag teaming on the Patriots. They do great work, as you know already. And also the PrizePicks app, code CLNS, get $50 instantly when you play $5. And we wrap it up with Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download that app and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. All right, this week's pick. So I am 5-4 against the spread. I'm 4-5 straight up. Yeah, 4-5 straight up. Greg is 3-4-2 against the spread. He is 5-4 straight up. You had -6. I checked FanDuel before this show. They're 6.5. So I saw 6.5. So we got Bears -6.5. Over under is 38.5. What's going to happen on Sunday, Greg?
This is a tough one. I mean, because I could easily see the Bears completely implode and quit on Matt Eberflus, and the Patriots not only keep it close but win the game. But I just think that the Patriots are a get-right team, and I think that they just have too much talent on offense. I don't think the Patriots have enough to exploit the flaws with the Bears' offensive line. They're a very unathletic offensive line, but they're big, and I think that could cause issue for the Patriots. And I just think that their defense is too tough. And if they get Montez Sweat back as well this week, it's even tougher. Being on the road, I don't think the Patriots have traveled very well. That was really their first road game with Drake Maye last week. London doesn't really count. And it did not go well with all the penalties. By the way, you'll see a ton of pre-snap stupid ass penalties from the Bears too. It's like a mirror image, other than the Bears have talent at wide receiver. It's a freaking train wreck on offense for both of these teams. But I just think this is going to be a get-right game for the Bears. So I'm going to go Bears 23, Patriots 16.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Really?
Yeah, I was thinking first 23-20, but can the Patriots actually score 2 touchdowns against this defense with their red zone defense? I find it very difficult, But man, that half a point can get you, right? 23-16, 23-17. 23-20, somewhere in that range. I'm going to go. I'll go 23-16 because I don't think they're going to score 2 touchdowns against the Chicago defense. I'll go 23-16, which means I'm taking Chicago -6.5.
The Bears.
And I will say this. This might sound like a cop-out. I don't care. Greg and I, last year, we were pretty much right around, hovering like around 8-9, 9-8, somewhere in that area for predicting games for our picks. The year before, we smashed it. We were like 15-2 or whatever we were. But honestly, this year, I would not be betting any of these games. Like, these games have been incredibly tough. And it's because you've had 2 bad teams play often. You've had backup quarterbacks and rookie quarterbacks and coaching staffs that are new and struggling. And it's just like, you go back to the Jacksonville game. And what do we say? It could be a tight game. Jacksonville could go off the rails because Peterson might be done. Or, they could blow them out because they're more talented and who knows what can happen. Miami game with Skylar Thompson. It's like, well, yeah, you could, sorry, Huntley. yeah, you could see the Patriots, win this game, keep it tight. So you pick the Patriots in a tight game, and then Jaylen Polk in that last play. It's just been a really, really difficult season, week to week, to predict. But yeah, I think the Bears win on Sunday. We're at the point now. Let's see Drake Maye and the young guys improve, and I think that's a win for all Patriots fans if that happens. All right, he's Greg. I'm Nick. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Try not to think too hard about what Alex Van Pelt's doing and why. It's not going to help you at all when you watch these games. Just try to work through it. Just work through it. Enjoy the weekend. We'll be back early next week to recap